Democrats and gentlemen, this is a response to the cut and paste why I vote Republican video. This entire video is completely borrowed from another video entitled I'm voting Republican. Actually, this user mccainisthrough who did this cut and paste sham is attributing this video to another user. Actually, it came from another video that was up even before this other user's account was active. So he's copying from a guy who copied, basically. Since this user cut and pasted this video, she must believe these points. Let's demolish a few of these points and give everyone some reasons not to take her seriously. As an aside, on the right side of her video, she wrote, "A series of typical Republicans explaining in great detail why they vote Republican." You call that detailed? Actually, she probably does, because this user doesn't delve into details very often, but let's deal with a few of them here. Let's get started. At 38 seconds, a troglodyte known as Susan Enright blathers, "I'm voting Republican so that my little Caitlin can be in the classroom with at least 30 other children. That way she can be challenged by fighting for attention." As an aside, Susan took an IQ test and the results came back negative. This generalized comment asserts that we're not spending enough on education. This is totally false. As I went over in another video refuting liberal talking points, we're not spending enough on education. You'll find that in one of my playlists, refuting liberal talking points, and I'll link to that. President Bush spent an inflation-adjusted record amount of federal dollars on education. He did nothing but feed an unconstitutional federal Department of Education. Susan's comment insinuates that class sizes are getting larger. Actually, you should consider this. The number of public school employees in the U.S. has nearly doubled since 1970, while the number of students has increased by approximately 9%. Fail. Next. Then at 56 seconds, Bobby Carmichael says, "I'm voting Republican because continued use of fossil fuels is more important than preserving our natural wildlands." This is simply a very generalized version of the EnviroKook global warming mantra, which has been dealt with elsewhere. I have some videos on that, and of course I'll link to those. But actually, if I can remember one article in a peer-reviewed journal in Switzerland, 2 weather stations over from 1901 to 2000 showed a marked increase, actually a warming in that region over that century. And what happened is, as those regions warmed on those 2 weather stations, you saw there was less amount of temperatures going from one extreme to another. You weren't seeing the wild extremes like extremely warm weather in January or really cold weather in July in a warming region. Actually, if we're going through global cooling, you'll see more of those wild temperature swings, which cuts against their mantra. But there's so many things to say about global warming. Well, gosh, if we keep using fossil fuels, all the Arctic ice might melt, and sea levels might rise 6.5 to 10 feet like they did in Mexico 120,000 years ago. Or, oh, horrors of horrors, the Greenland ice cap might warm up like it did thousands and thousands of years ago, much warmer than it is now. Oh no, that might happen again long before Walmart was around. So, Bobby, here's your sign. At 2 minutes and 2 seconds, Pete Dixon says, "I'm voting Republican because I really enjoy being screwed by the utility companies." Actually, as I covered in my Big Oil article, it's Democrats who are causing fuel prices to skyrocket. For example, Barney Frank was attempting to, now I can't remember the name of this river, it's in my Big Oil article, but they were going to run a liquefied natural gas terminal up in there in Massachusetts to supply New Englanders with cheaper natural gas, because obviously if it's going through a pipeline right up there, it's going to be a lot cheaper. It's going to be easier to access. Well, Barney wanted to make this river where the terminal was going to go through a scenic river. Despite the fact there are fuel tanks all around this river, and I don't see what's scenic about that, but his point was nature wasn't his concern. He wanted to make it a scenic river so it could block that liquefied natural gas pipeline and terminal. That way people in New England can pay more to heat their house in the winter, because anyone who's been up in New England for an extended period of time knows it gets bitterly cold every winter. So I guess Barney, that's how he helps the middle class. So actually, Pete, I don't know where you're getting your talking points from. Probably from somebody's rear end. at 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Stan Mitchell says, I'm voting Republican because I don't feel that I deserve health insurance. Well, Stan, let me clue you in. Again, I'll refer my viewers to my article on universal health care, which is far more detailed than nonsense coming out of Stanley's pie hole, but obviously he doesn't understand the difference between medical care and health care. Our healthcare system is already half socialized. 46% of healthcare expenditures are covered by the government, and that's increased markedly since the 60s. And the number of state mandates, such as, oh, you got to cover chiropractor, in vitro fertilization, drug and marriage counseling, hair pieces, whatever. The number of mandates has also markedly increased over the last few decades, and that increases premiums. If a company's offering health insurance in an area and they have to cover hair pieces and garbage like that, of course it's going to increase the premiums. But don't mention that. It'll confuse them with the facts. In a recent article on universal health care, Thomas Sowell said this: insurance is not medical care. Indeed, health care is not the same as medical care. Countries with universal health care do not have more or better health care. And yes, if you liberals want to debate that, I'll be more than happy to accommodate you. The bottom line is medical care, but the rhetoric and the talking points are about insurance. Many people who could afford health insurance do not choose to have it because they know that medical care will be available at the nearest emergency room, whether they have insurance or not. This is especially true for young people who do not anticipate long-term medical problems and can always get a broken leg or an allergy attack taken care of at an emergency room and spend their money on a more upscale lifestyle. This may not be a wise decision, but it is their decision, and theirs is their decision. It's no reason why other people should lose the right to make decisions for themselves, because some people make questionable decisions. If you don't think government bureaucrats can make questionable decisions, then you haven't dealt with many government bureaucrats. Medical care is what doctors can do for you. Health care includes what you can do for yourself, such as diet, exercise, and lifestyle. If a doctor arrives on the scene to find you wiped out by a drug overdose or shot through the heart by some of your rougher companions, there may not be much that he can do for you except sign the death certificate. Even for things that take longer to do you in, obesity, alcohol, cholesterol, tobacco, doctors can tell you what to do or not to do, but whether you follow their advice or not is what determines the outcome. Americans tend to be more obese, consume more drugs, and have more homicides. None of that is going to change with universal health care because it isn't health care. It is medical care. So maybe this user, I urge this user, mccainisthrough, to maybe clarify some of your positions with some actual details, if that would be possible. Because obviously if you're parroting these talking points, you believe them. And I could talk more, but you know, all this is too long for one video, but go ahead and cover those points I covered and post an actual detailed response responding to some of the points I made, because everyone that I responded to, that I chose to on that video, is nonsense. Don't thank me now.